Hey everybody, welcome back to the Miracle of Healing. I'm Lisa Campion, and I'm so very glad to have you with us today. And we have really an extraordinary story to share with you today. We have Michelle Giovanni. She's just a beautiful spiritual life coach, a mystical channel, a very successful entrepreneur. She has an incredible story to share with us from how she really escaped from a pretty horrible situation in the Dominican Republic to, you know, trying to make it in New York City, really from starting with nothing, and she's walked her way through some really dark times, and emerged as a very powerful healer and inspiring entrepreneur, and her transition from adversity to abundance is incredibly inspiring and nothing short of miraculous. I love a miracle story here on The Miracle of Healing. And these days, she specializes in energy healing, ancestral healing, somatic freedom, spiritual powering, really helping other people find their kind of empowerment, and particularly around wealth. So, creating wealth on every level: spiritual wealth, emotional wealth, physical, energetic, and financial wealth. So, today we're going to dive into her story and how this sort of woke her up into this incredible spiritual experience that she had, and now she's helping other people open up their spiritual power too. So welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you.
Yeah, you too. So tell us a little bit about your story. It's pretty inspiring and scary and then inspiring. So like what happened?
Yeah, I think the scariest part was living the nightmare of experiencing extreme violence at home, watching my mother get beat by her husband in very extreme ways. That was the scariest part. And I feel like a lot of children that go through that experience have to learn how to grow up really fast
Mhm.
and also protect themselves. And they're also learning how to put on a mask, and that was me, where I would go to school and just pretend everything was okay, because the last thing I wanted to do was share what was going on at home and bring that shame to our home, even though that's what we were living in. So that was for me, the scariest part. He burned down our house twice. He would beat my mom in ways that were just very cruel. He would throw her off the balcony. He beat her until there were so many bones and blood, and it was just really bad. But at 17, I just got fed up with seeing that. After he burned our house twice, I just felt like this isn't going to change. Um, and he wasn't physically abusive with us, but he was very emotionally abusive, and he would do things to us like shoot guns at us while we were running. And so it was very chaotic and very toxic. When I left, I remember I couldn't go back. I had to run away. That was like what my guides, and I had a very a very spiritual connection with my guides, where at a very young age I could see the spirit world, I could speak to them. And so they would play certain messages through songs. And so when I was conjuring this big plan as a 17-year-old to run away with nothing, I didn't know where. I lived in DR, but I was an American. And I did a lot of research on how I could come to this country even though my mom had my passport, because I was always threatening that if she didn't leave him, I was gonna leave. And so New York was the Frank Sinatra song that my guides played, and I remember like, "Really? New York? But it was cold, that we live in an island that we share with Haiti, and it's always warm." So I didn't have clothes, I didn't pack a bag, I left, and it was the eve of Thanksgiving Day, the night before Thanksgiving Day, and I left. And that story in itself, just moving through customs where you don't have a passport, and I looked like I was 12, and just advocating for myself was really big for me. And I was able to convince them, and I showed them this this printout that I had printed about the laws that pertain to American minors. And so I was able to convince him. I came to New York, and I feel like the adrenaline got me to that point where I was standing outside the airport, and then the real journey began because now what? I didn't know how to take trains. I didn't know how to get a license or any ID without any paperwork. And so there began my journey of being homeless, learning to beg for money, learning to sleep creatively in certain places to stay warm. Um, and so I even remember sneaking into like Barnes and Nobles and hiding, waiting for them to close up to just be able to sleep there. So there was a lot of creativity, but what I will say is that it felt like an adventure because what I was running away from was so much easier what I was experiencing in New York being homeless. It was like an adventure compared to what I was going through at home. And so here I was, homeless, and there began this journey of like learning how to be with my gifts, my guides, learning how to trust God in a way that was blind. So just that's when this deep initiation that I call it began.
Wow, Michelle, that's heartbreaking and inspiring in so many ways, and, I can really feel the energy when you were talking about how, it's gotta be bad if being homeless in New York as a 17-year-old is better than what you were experiencing before, that says a lot right there, and it sounds like your guides were really active in helping you navigate through that time in your life. So what happened? How did you land on your feet? Because clearly you did.
Yeah, I had angels everywhere. I had friends back at home. I didn't know it at the time. We didn't have iPhones or any phones like we do now that we're so connected, but I remember logging into my email account, and at that time it was High Five. Um, and just reading messages from them that they were saying, "Look, we're all going to college. Come with us. We know that you're in New York. The college that we're going to is in New York." And I just remember getting really emotional because I had thought that the world forgot me and that I was on my own. And so to receive that message, I don't know why I'm getting emotional now, but I just felt like this sense of like, oh my God, I am loved. I'm not forgotten. And the messages that I kept getting from my guides were like, we're everywhere. There's angels everywhere looking after you in every space. And so they applied for me to go to college. My friends handled everything from filling out my FAFSA to gathering my journals, typing up journal entries, and submitting them as college essays. And I remember getting a call at the homeless shelter by one of the deans, and he said, I can get you in as early as May. Can you hang in there? And this was around January. And I said, sure, I can hang in there. Um, At that time, there was a homeless coordinator that she worked at the shelter and she took interest in me, and she was like, "You know multiple languages, you know bookkeeping, you know finance, like you do not belong here." And so there was this beautiful anchoring of people seeing my worth, my value, but I wasn't present to it. And so I
Mm.
write in my book that I ran away homeless, but I had so many invisible luggages to unpack. And growing up in what I did had me become really resilient and creative. And so I was the person that people came to for advice when they were going through trouble. And even in college, I was the person that people would come to. And I didn't know about coaching or mentorship or personal development until years later. So I went to college, and I remember, well, let me back up and say about this quick little story. My mom found out that I got a job because the homeless coordinator got me an interview. And she flew into New York and she met with me and she was like, Michelle, if you take this job, you're going to always be someone else's employee. But if you go to college, you'll be the employer one day and you'll help people. And so the need to get her approval was what had me go to college and not get the job. But funny story is that the job pay that I was getting was the exact same pay that I got from the first job after college. But college was a beautiful experience. I learned a lot. I met a lot of amazing people. And so there began my journey of learning business and marketing, and college became my first safe haven, Lisa. I didn't want to leave college, so I kept adding majors.
Mm,
I graduated with a triple major, and I was very bold. I started applying to like all of these jobs. I wanted to make a difference. And so I figured working in the government or working in Wall Street. And I landed my first job at Wall Street at the New York Stock Exchange, New York, New York Mercantile Exchange. But I hated it. And I don't know if you have this experience where you come out of college, you think you know everything. And then when you're there, you're like, no, this is not it. But I feel like God always has a plan. And sometimes we can't fully see it or understand it because we're so fixated with our plan. And so the 2008 recession happened and I lost my job. I was one of the people that got let go. And I find that was the biggest blessing in disguise because that's when I found mentorship and coaching and personal development, and then I discovered spiritual development and spiritual alchemy, and I just I discovered something that I was willing to do for free if I had to.
mm. Wow. So I just love your story so much. And I started working as a psychic when I was still in college. So, and when I came out of college, that's what I did. I've never had a proper job. I've just done this my whole life. And for kind of a similar reason, like, when you're young, you do things because you think you can do them. Like, I was 19 when I started working as a psychic. Why? Because you think you can do stuff when you're 19. It never occurred to me I couldn't do it, right? So I did it, and I've been doing it ever since. But I really love how what you're talking about is an example of living a spirit infused life. Like your connection with your guides feels like saved your life, and guided your life. Um, and and let's talk about that a little bit, like because I know a lot of what you do is you talk about activating your channel and that is for people that have a spiritual calling, but maybe don't know how to access it. What does it really mean to activate your channel? And what were the signs that came for you that you knew that was happening for you?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I didn't plan it. I definitely did not plan on being a channel. It was something that, yes, I could see and hear the spirit world, but I didn't necessarily even think that I would be capable of being
Mm,
a channel. Um, I think Conversations with God was the first book that had me understand my gifts in a different way. And
mm,
when I saw Abraham was when I made sense of what was happening to me. Well, like, oh, this is exactly what's happening to me. The first time I started channeling was at my retreats, a spiritual, it's called Sacred Alchemy. It's a spiritual retreat where we dive into a lot of the somatic and alchemy work. And it's about activating your channel, your frequency, really connecting on a deeper level to your purpose, to wealth on all levels. Um, but I remember the first time it happened, I was still a mystic in a closet. I did not want anyone to know. I thought, if my family knew, I would be exiled. And when you run away at a young age, that's still a fear. That even though you ran away, that you're still looking for their approval. You still want to belong. And at times when we run away, we feel like we're the black sheep that doesn't belong. So I had to really rework a lot of that within me. But in the retreat, I remember just getting this clear guidance that channeling was going to be a part of my work. And I had to get comfortable in sharing these gifts out in the open. And that's been the journey ever since. And we started doing retreats in 2016. Um, and activating your channel, I believe we're all channels. In my heart, I truly believe that we're all channels and that as a channel of spirit, you're here to create and create the miraculous. You are here as a channel of miracles. And Oftentimes, it starts with what we are able to believe about ourselves and believe what's possible and what we're inherently worthy of. When I speak about activating your channel, is that there's a very specific energetic signature to you. There's a very specific frequency to you. And through that frequency, you have access to anything you desire to create. And as you move forward in harnessing the power of your channel, you start to create something that you didn't even imagine was possible. And you start to become a living embodiment of what is possible when you step into your channel and your frequency and you bring alive the work that is meant to come through you.
Mm, so beautiful. I love that. I love that, what you said about everybody's a channel, and I agree. I think that's gorgeous, and I love how you incorporate somatic work and ancestral healing work into your work because I think what for me, like, clearing the channel is the important thing, and that means getting all the traumas out of the way. The traumas we hold in our bodies, the traumas we carry from our lineage. So how did that work for you? To It sounds like there's probably a lot of work to do there, that there was quite a lot of wounding through your lineage that you had to clear up.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm doing currently, Lisa, is I'm writing this book that literally handing it to a publisher in the next couple weeks. So I'm in this vulnerable moment of turning over my baby. But it's
Mhm.
called When Wounds Howl. And it's about the creative intelligence behind traumas and wounds because the wounds at times this new age Western way of seeing, perceiving wounds can make it feel like something's broken. And the way that we talked about it through history has made women feel like they're crazy and that they're broken. But there's nothing wrong with us. In fact, our wounds are this dormant potential that's handed to us. And it's our job to awaken the gifts that are underneath these wounds. But we do that by truly surrendering into them through the somatic work, through ancestral healing, through a lot of different paths, we're able to integrate the wounds. And in that, there's this creative intelligence that arises and that you take on this new shape of who you're becoming. And it's really powerful because I feel like ancestral wounds they're so common, but they're not. A lot of people do not speak about this. We don't learn about this in this part of the
Mm,
world, but they are very common in other parts of the world where a lot of the ancestral patterns when it comes to our wealth, when it comes to our evolution as women, as leaders, as creators, we start to repeat certain ancestor patterns. We start to repeat certain vows that our lineage has taken on in order to survive and to protect themselves. A lot of ancestors took vows of poverty, vows of
mm.
invisibility. And so a lot of women like us that are holding a mic had to overcome this fear of sharing our voice, sharing our medicine with the world.
Yeah, I love it. I've done so much of that myself too, and, you know, clearing the past lives, clearing the lineage, clearing the childhood trauma, like, it all, and as we clear and we work through those things, we become the clearest channel we can be, and it's such beautiful and important work. And I wanna loop this back into talking about wealth and abundance because a lot of your work is around clearing the channel for wealth abundance in all kinds of ways, but wealth abundance in particular. So, let's talk about that and how that loops in.
I believe that, women are here to usher this new paradigm of wealth on all levels. I feel like we as women, we can feel things, we know things intuitively, we can sense things. And a lot of these vows that we were just talking about were passed on. Our mothers knew survival, but this is the generation, our generation and beyond, that is about choosing wealth. What does that mean? What does that mean, not just on a mental level, but emotionally, physically, spiritually, energetically? And Kabbalah does such a great job at explaining how wealth, money, is the highest form of spirituality. Because when you're allowing yourself to really receive, when you understand that you don't have to earn your way into being and feeling and creating a life of wealth on all levels, that
Mm,
you are worthy just because you exist. And when you start treating yourself in that way, you start treating your energy in that way, you start to only be available for that.
Mm.
Such a gift to women that can turn a house into a home. Well, we can pull money out of thin air. We believe it to be true. We start to receive. We start to open the channel to receive at that level. And so there's a lot of different work to be done, and like you said, to clear the channel and to really open up your receivership, to open up to really be that match, that frequency match, but also at the level of the identity, because that's what starts to emit the frequency and to hold the field is who you think you are and what you're capable of creating for yourself and the world.
Right, I find that too, and that women have like, if we go into the yin, so many of us try to become more masculine and kind of do like, lean into our masculine side, which I had to do a lot as an entrepreneur and a single mom,
Same.
I was like, "Okay, I'm spending a lot of time in the masculine where it's really, like, force and, like, arm wrestling the world into submission," and that's so exhausting, isn't it? And, like, there's something that shifts when we change into the feminine, like the yin magnetism, kind of receiving like from a sort of a magnet does. Doesn't have to try, it just does. What are some of your, tips to help women overly yanged women make that shift? How do we do that?
Oof, I feel like the women would love like a five-step process, but to go into the feminine really has us we need to disconnect from the process of needing to understand it intellectually. So one of
Mhm.
the processes that I highly recommend is called feminine pacing, where you allow yourself to just lay on the floor, preferably a wooden floor, and you do this in sprints. So let's say you had a work day, the morning, you're able to take this afternoon little 5-minute break. It could be as short as 5 minutes, but you're laying on the ground and you're just breathing and you're scanning your body with your energy from your toes to your head. And you're just doing this as many times as possible without thought. And so we do it one round without thought, just presencing your body, allowing yourself to be held by the earth, by the floor. And then you bring in this wealth blueprint where you ask your body, body, show me, what does wealth feel like in my body? What does wealth, true wealth on all levels, feel like in my body? And you do another round where you're feeling that and holding that frequency. And then you do one more round where you go into the visual of it. Okay, body, show me, what does wealth on all level look and feel like? And you allow yourself to just breathe as you're scanning your body, seeing where the energy is taking you. And so then your job becomes, after you get off the floor, to hold that frequency as long as you can, to move with that frequency that your body's revealing to you.
That's beautiful. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it this afternoon. I love that so much. That's great. So, you're working on a book right now. Do you have a book published, or is this your first one that you're working on now?
I have one published. It's called 108 Self-Love Rituals. And it's not a book, it's a list of 108 self-love rituals. I got a bad review of the lady saying, "This is not a book, this is just a list." I'm like, "Yep, that's what the title says." But I'm writing this book called When Wounds Howl, and Lisa, it's I feel like it's been writing me. I mean, I've
Mm.
been waking up and so many different hours of the night to just channel this book, and it's about these 3 generations, about a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter, that they're all the eldest of their families, and it's about the ancestral patterns, but those moments that are deep initiation in a woman's life, where there those moments that break us down, but they push us up against the wall, and we learn to just howl. We learn to fight back, not just fighting in the sense of fighting more in the sense of, like, standing up for ourselves. We start to really take charge of our body, our emotions, our life, our trajectory, our purpose, our wealth. We start to really own it as women, as leaders, as the the alpha femme, right? Which she's the she wolf. She is the eldest daughter. Usually the one that leads the pack is either the mother, and if she leaves the pack, then it's the eldest daughter, the wolf,
Mm.
that is the eldest daughter. And so it's such a beautiful book because it's an experience. There's different modalities that you move through the book, and every woman is learning the stories of their grandmothers, their great grandmothers, learning to recognize the patterns that we are repeating through our own stories and how to really take back the power of our wounds and really use them to ignite our own path and our own evolution.
So great. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Sounds powerful. And what's one last thing you can tell our listeners for people who are wanting to connect with more of the wealth mindset, wealth mojo, wealth vibration? Is there something
Yeah,
you can share?
I'm actually running something that is completely different. I've been channeling this body of work for the last 2 years called Flow, Feminine Leadership of Wealth. And so I'm happy to share with your listeners if they
Mm,
want to just message me on Instagram and say they come from Lisa Campion from the Miracle of Healing. I'm happy to share a blueprint with them. But flow is about really activating the four pillars of the divine feminine frequency. This feminine leadership for me in this paradigm of AI and so many changes are going to help happen so quickly. It is the woman that is going to lead us through and restore that this harmony that this world is awakening within us all.
mm. Amazing. I can't wait to read it. I'm gonna get it. Well, I thank you so much, Michelle, for being with us today and for your sharing your incredible story and your work and yourself with us and with the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for the work that you're up to as well. Thank you. I
And
can
let's
feel
let's
here.
just see how if people want to work with you, how they can get to you. Is that through
Yeah,
your
they
website?
they can go through my website at michellegiovanni.com, and they can also find me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm there a lot. But yes, we have retreats coming up, Sacred Alchemy. We have programs that are at various different price points, but it's such an opportunity to dive into a container that is about deep calibration back to the feminine.
So beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing. Like I said, sharing your gifts with us and with the world. I so appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And thanks all of you for tuning into the Miracle of Healing. I'm so grateful that you're here. If you want to find me, you can find me at lisacampion.com. I work with emerging psychics, healers, and empaths to help them develop their gifts because I think the world needs all the healers it can get. And my mission in life is to create an army of healers to go out there and save the world. So thanks for joining that. Thanks for joining the crusade and for being here today here on the Miracle of Healing, where we are healing the planet one person at a time right here on the Empower channel.